Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. European nations are scrambling to save the landmark nuclear agreement with Iran one day after President Trump announced he'll pull the United States out of the deal and reimpose sanctions on Iran.
The Iran deal is defective at its core. If we do nothing, we know exactly what will happen. In just a short period of time, the world's leading state sponsor of terror will be on the cusp of acquiring the world's most dangerous weapons. Therefore, I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
The 2015 agreement was worked out by the United States and 5 other world powers, as well as Iran. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran has continued to meet its obligations under the agreement. We'll have more on Trump's decision to pull out of the 2015 deal after headlines. The New York Times is reporting President Trump's longtime personal lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, paid adult film star Stormy Daniels $130,000 in hush money using a shell company that was funded in part by a billionaire Russian oligarch. The hush money, paid days before the 2016 election, was intended to keep Stormy Daniels, also known as Stephanie Clifford, from speaking out about her alleged affair with Donald Trump back in 2006. Newly reviewed financial documents show Cohen paid Daniels through a shell company named Essential Consultants, LLC. This company later received $500,000 from a New York investment firm named Columbus Nova, whose biggest client is a company controlled by Russian billionaire Viktor Vekselberg, who was stopped and questioned at an airport earlier this year by investigators for special counsel Robert Mueller. Federal prosecutors are investigating Cohen for possible election law violations and bank fraud. Trump has admitted he reimbursed Cohen for the $130,000 hush money payment to Daniels. The New York Times also reports Cohen used the shell company, Essential Consultants, to collect $250,000 after Cohen brokered a separate hush money payment for major Republican donor Elliot Broidy, who paid off a former Playboy model to keep her quiet about their affair, which resulted in her having an abortion. Other companies that contributed to Essential Consultants are Korea Aerospace Industries, which was competing for a multi-billion-dollar contract to provide trainer jets for the U.S. Air Force, and AT&T, whose proposed merger with Time Warner is currently pending before the Justice Department. Novartis Pharmaceuticals also paid in. Deputy CIA Director Gina Haspel is testifying in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee for her confirmation hearing as CIA Director today. Haspel was responsible for running a secret CIA black site in Thailand in 2002, where one prisoner was waterboarded 83 times and tortured in other ways. The former acting director of the CIA has also confirmed that in 2005, Haspel personally oversaw the destruction of videotape showing torture at the black site. Today's hearing will mark the first time Haspel will be forced to speak publicly about her role in the U.S. torture program, if the legislators ask her about it. Among those seeking to testify about Haspel's role is Guantanamo prisoner Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the accused architect of the 9/11 attacks. He was held at secret CIA prisons in Afghanistan and Poland. It's not yet known whether Haspel was involved directly or indirectly in Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's torture. He's currently at Guantanamo. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has appointed a special prosecutor to investigate accusations that resigned New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman physically assaulted at least 4 women. 2 of the women, Michelle Manning Barash and Tanya Salvaratnam, told the New Yorker magazine Schneiderman repeatedly hit them, slapping them across the face and choking them to the point they each sought medical attention. They both also accused Schneiderman of threatening to kill them if they broke up with him. New York Solicitor General Barbara Underwood will now serve as New York's acting attorney general. Meanwhile, 5 more executives have stepped down at Nike, where a sweeping investigation into workplace harassment and misconduct towards women employees is underway. A total of 11 senior managers have left Nike so far. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is visiting North Korea today to finalize plans for the proposed meeting between President Trump and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. There's also speculation Pompeo will return to the U.S. with the 3 Americans who've been imprisoned in North Korea, Kim Dong-chul, Kim Hak-song, and Tony Kim. Voters in West Virginia, Ohio and Indiana, and North Carolina headed to the polls Tuesday to decide a number of key primaries. In West Virginia, the state's Republican Attorney General Patrick Morrisey won a closely watched U.S. Senate primary, defeating Congressmember Evan Jenkins and former coal baron Don Blankenship, who served a year in prison after 29 miners died in an explosion at his Upper Big Branch mine, owned by his company Massey. Patrick Morrisey will now face the conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin in November. In Ohio, Richard Cordray defeated former Congressmember Dennis Kucinich in the state's Democratic primary for governor. Cordray served as the first director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. He will now face Mike DeWine in November to determine who will replace outgoing Ohio Governor John Kasich. In Indiana, Vice President Mike Pence's brother, Greg Pence, won the Republican primary for a congressional seat in eastern Indiana that Vice President once sat in. Female candidates were also big winners on Tuesday. Politico reports there were 20 open Democratic House primaries with women on the ballot Tuesday night, and voters selected a female nominee in 17 of them. We'll have more on the primaries later in the broadcast. In Armenia, thousands of people took to the streets Tuesday to celebrate after the opposition leader, Nikol Pashinyan, was elected prime minister by Armenia's parliament. The election followed weeks of anti-corruption and anti-government protests, which toppled the former president in April. Armenia's new prime minister is a former journalist and publisher. Meanwhile, in Hungary, thousands of people demonstrated outside parliament Tuesday as far-right-wing Prime Minister Viktor Orban was formally sworn in for a 3rd term. He led a xenophobic anti-immigrant campaign and won 2/3 of the seats in parliament in April, giving him even more power to reshape Hungary's constitution. The Israeli government has ordered the deportation of Human Rights Watch's Israel and Palestine director Omar Shakir. Israel has accused Shakir, who's a U.S. citizen, of promoting the nonviolent boycott, divestment and sanctions movement, which targets Israel over its treatment of Palestinians. Shakir now has 14 days to leave Israel. This comes less than 2 weeks after 2 U.S. human rights lawyers, Columbia University professor Catherine Franke and Center for Constitutional Rights executive director, attorney Vince Warren, were detained for 14 hours at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion International Airport before being deported back to the United States. You can see the interview with them at democracynow.org. Back in the United States, Arizona Republican Senator John McCain, who's battling brain cancer, has indicated he does not want President Trump to attend his funeral. He also says he wants former Presidents Barack Obama and George W. Bush to deliver the eulogies at his funeral. In New York City, dozens of journalists rallied outside the headquarters of Alden Global Capital Tuesday to protest censorship and layoffs imposed by the nation's second-largest newspaper chain, Digital First Media, which is owned by the New York-based hedge fund Alden.
My name's George Kelly. I'm a breaking news reporter for the East Bay Times in Oakland, California. We won a Pulitzer Prize last year covering the ghost ship fire in Oakland, where 36 people lost their lives in a warehouse. Our investigative reporters, our breaking news reporters, our photographers and editors worked to hold institutions accountable. We need to know that nothing like this can ever happen again. We won the Pulitzer Prize, and we had layoffs a week later. I flew 3,000 miles today to give Alden Global Capital a message: invest or sell.
To see our full coverage of journalists protesting against Alden Global Capital, you can go to our website at democracynow.org, where we interviewed reporters from the Denver Post and the Boulder Daily Camera. A Louisiana judge has ruled the permit for the proposed 163-mile Bayou Bridge pipeline is illegal, meaning the pipeline's construction must now be halted as the permit is reconsidered. The proposed pipeline has faced mounting resistance from residents and environmental activists. It's being built by Energy Transfer Partners, the same company behind the Dakota Access Pipeline. In California, the granddaughter of Bob Marley is vowing to sue the Rialto Police Department after she and 2 other friends were surrounded by a swarm of police cars and a police helicopter as they were checking out an Airbnb rental. The 3 women are all black. The police were dispatched after a white neighbor saw the 3 women carrying suitcases out of the rental home and called the police to report a possible burglary. It's the latest in a series of high-profile incidents of racial profiling and racial discrimination, including 2 black men being arrested at a Philadelphia Starbucks for being inside the coffee shop while they were waiting for a 3rd man to arrive for a business meeting. And activists around the country have begun bailing black women out of jail as part of the 2nd annual Black Mamas Bailout, a nationwide effort to free black mothers and reunite them with their loved ones ahead of Mother's Day this Sunday. This is Southerners on New Ground's Executive Director, Mary Hook, speaking on Democracy Now! Last year during the first Black Mamas Bailout.
We know that about 80% of black women that are sitting in cages right now are single parents and caretakers. We know that the 1 out of 3 black trans women who have spent time in the cage have experienced sexual violence in the cage. 1 out of 9 black children have parents who are incarcerated. And so our goal is to be able to free our people from these cages using the traditions from our ancestors that brought each other's collective freedom, to get our folks back home and to highlight the crisis around the cash bail system, put pressure on all of these institutions who are making money off of our people suffering, but most importantly, restore the life that this cash bail system have taken from our people.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Mimi Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.